Welcome everyone to the Ultimate Gamer Realm's Realm of Horror, and this is your bloody host and creator, Jason Dixon, logging on. In this Realm of Horror special, I'm going to be doing a retrospective on one of the most bloodiest first-person shooter games of all time. The same first-person shooter game that uses the same build engine like Duke Nukem 3D and Shadow Warrior, released in 1997 by Monolith, titled Blood. That's what the name of the game is, Blood. Let me show you an intro clip to give you an idea what you'll be getting into.
Welcome, my servants, my slaves.
What is your bidding, Master?
You have failed me. I disavow you all.
What the?
What?
I've taken your love. Now I will take your life. Consider my power in a hollow grave.
Yeah, I'll explain about that as I continue. Anyway, this will be a 30-minute retrospective documentary and a review on the bloody game itself. From the beginning of the development to the expansion packs to the complete edition to the digital version to the remaster version. From 1996 to 2019. Now starting the bloody project. So please, bloody, do enjoy. Oh, by the way, I've been waiting a bloody fucking long time for this one. Oh yeah. In 1996, Ken Silverman's build engine was starting to make a huge impact around the first-person shooter genre. A big step up from id Software's Doom engine, when around that time, id Software's Quake engine was also emerging and having an impact of its own. The build engine was used for popular first-person shooter games like Duke Nukem 3D from 3D Realms. Now I'm sure Duke Nukem 3D does not need no introduction, as we all know that Duke Nukem 3D was aiming for many parodies amongst action and sci-fi films. In 1997, 3D Realms released another first-person shooter using the build engine called Shadow Warrior. Shadow Warrior in a way is like Duke Nukem 3D, except Shadow Warrior is a parody on classic Kung Fu films, and you're playing the character by the name of Lo Wang. Back to 1996, when development for another 3D Realms first-person shooter game that again uses the build engine, titled Blood. And very well worthy of that title too. Blood was meant to be more of paying a homage, as well in somewhat way of being a parody to many horror films and novels from the likes of Howard Philip Lovecraft. The main protagonist is taking on the role of a merciless gunslinger in the late 19th century American West, and the protagonist was once a supreme commander of a cult called the Cabal, until he was betrayed when the cult murdered him, his wife and son.
I live again.
This is where the protagonist starts getting into action. 'Cause 7 years later, the gunslinger gets resurrected from his grave to seek answers and revenge. This protagonist goes by the name of Caleb. Caleb the Gunslinger. Shortly after 3D Realms got done with Duke Nukem 3D, they were working on both Shadow Warrior and Blood, but it seems that 3D Realms was more focused on Shadow Warrior, and there were production issues between the two projects. So 3D Realms sold the rights of Blood and passed the project onto Monolith Studios, while 3D Realms focuses on Shadow Warrior. Blood was released for MS-DOS CD-ROM in May of 1997. The shareware version of Blood was released on May 7th, and the full version of Blood, with all 4 episodes, all weapons, a multiplayer mode, and bonus features, like this awesome music video for the game from Typo Negative titled Love You to Death. Good song, by the way, and rest in peace, Peter Steele. Anyway, the full version of Blood was released on May 31st. Developed by Monolith and published by GT Interactive, which GT Interactive was later purchased by Atari. Then the following month from the full game release of Blood, the first expansion pack, Cryptic Passage, was released, but not from the same team of the regular Blood game. Cryptic Passage was developed by Sunstorm Interactive and published by WizardWorks. Sunstorm Interactive also developed Duke Nukem Manhattan Project, which is a side-scroller game, and WizardWorks also published the 2 Duke Nukem 3D expansion packs, Duke It Out in DC and Duke Caribbean Life's a Beach. Cryptic Passage expansion pack was originally going to be titled Passage to Transylvania, which actually sounds more relevant than Cryptic Passage, but not a huge deal since you won't encounter Dracula anyway, but that would be awesome if you can. The second and final expansion pack for Blood, Plasma Pack, was released about 4 months later on October 15th by Monolith. No third-party involvement this time. The Plasma Pack added a 5th episode, new enemies, new weapons, and bug fixes for the whole entire game. Cryptic Passage was more of a standalone expansion, and the Plasma Pack was more of a built-in expansion pack for the full game. Then on the 15th of June in 1998, the year after the release of Blood, they added the complete edition of Blood, known as One Whole Unit Blood. One Whole Unit Blood had been available for digital distribution, like on Good Old Games or Steam, within the last 10 years. And that was the version I previously had been playing during the last 10 years. And come to think of it, One Whole Unit Blood was the first GOG game I ever purchased. I always been curious about Blood ever since reading the article in a game magazine back in the 90s. But, you know me, at that time I was limited to consoles, and there never was a console release of Blood, so I never did get a chance to play Blood until I purchased it for $6 on goodoldgames.com. And it's indeed a bloody fucking awesome game. And with a title like Blood, or One Whole Unit Blood, it's totally what you would expect. Precisely the most bloodiest game ever. I'm not 100% too sure about that, but totally possible. I was very happy to play Blood for the first time since I purchased it from goodoldgames.com, I believe back in 2012. However, there were minor drawbacks with the way they had the pre-configured settings for DOSBox, I mean, it wasn't bad, and it still ran pretty good. I just wasn't completely satisfied with the default setup they had, so I had to tweak with the settings to get the settings I would rather prefer. Regardless of how the pre-settings were, I still had a bloody first run in the realms of blood. But after I've been seeing some of the remastered build engine games for modern operating systems in 2013, like for Duke Nukem 3D Megaton Edition and Shadow Warrior Classic Redux, both games were remastered in HD and for OpenGL physics. And at that time, I wanted the same treatment for Blood. But I believe the only problem with doing it that way with Blood is that they were licensed and owned by Monolith and Atari. Yeah, 3D Realms might have started Blood, but Monolith and Atari took over the project and finished it. Since when I saw the remasters of both first-person shooter games that used the build engine, I was always hoping that there would be a remastered version of Blood. Well, there is some good news. Thanks to an awesome YouTuber and a first-person shooter enthusiast, G-Man Lives. Awesome channel, by the way, and he's a big into first-person shooter games, so I recommend you all subscribe to his channel. Anyway, thanks to G-Man Lives, I did learn that there were some source ports of Blood. Some of the source ports were decent, and some were poor, because they were difficult to mod since the actual source code for Blood was never released to the public. But at least that's something, right? But then again, I would rather prefer a proper licensed remaster of Blood, if that was ever going to happen.
Show yourself! Show yourself! Sleep, Ophelia. Sleep, Ophelia.
But now the better news, it actually did happen. In December of 2018, I read an article that Atari commissioned Nightdive Studios to create an enhanced version of Blood. Then on May 9th of 2019, this year, a remastered version of Blood that I've been hoping for during the last 5.5 years had finally arrived on both Steam and Good Old Games. Titled as Blood Fresh Supply. And Nightdive Studios really did nail it the way I hoping they would. They bloody nailed it, alright.
I live again.
Along with a few unexpected but very bloody satisfying new features. Fresh Supply has everything that the whole unit had, but Fresh Supply added plenty more, with new enhanced features for modern Windows operating systems. A lot of enhancements had been added for Fresh Supply, including Vulkan, DirectX 11, and OpenGL 3.2 support, play with unlocked frame rates. Plus anti-aliasing, ambient occlusion, VSync and interpolation support, Also support for higher resolutions, including 4K monitors. Big fucking plus there. Fully customizable keyboard and controller pad support. Hell yeah! Also extended modding support, including support for already existing mods.
Son of a bitch must pay.
And for multiplayer wise, completely rewritten netcode that supports up to 8 players, play online in co-op mode, kill each other in a bloodbath, or split the difference in the classic 4 vs 4 team-based capture the bloody flag rules, or bloody battle it out in a bloody local split screen action, which comes in handy when you have friends over. And other cool things you can do is roll your own soundtrack with full CD and MIDI music support. And also fully look up and down with a new 3D view. Or just stick with the classic build engine style. Your bloody choice. Another cool thing they added to Fresh Supply is a bloody custom difficulty mode called Made to Order, which allows you to customize your own challenge. It's a difficulty that can be easy or hard, well, depending on your preferences, that is. Pretty cool they added that difficulty. The replay value for Blood has always been high, but with the new remastered version, Fresh Supply, the replay value has grown much higher than ever. And Fresh Supply is what's gonna get my fucking hands even more bloodier. And my carnage meter for Blood has increased to the max. Blood Fresh Supply is available on Steam and Good Old Games for $9.99. And whatever digital store you choose, it's well worth every bloody penny. But since I own the original one whole unit Blood pack from both digital stores, I got $5 off for Fresh Supply on both digital stores. So I purchased Fresh Supply from both digital stores for $5 each, to be more supportive of being a proud owner of Fresh Supply from both Steam and Good Old Games. All above, I still invested $10 into Blood Fresh Supply, and Nightdive Studios totally does deserve my support. Blood Fresh Supply also uses the Kex engine that's been used for previous remastered classics from Nightdive Studios, such as Turok 1 and 2, Forsaken Remastered, and System Shock Enhanced Edition. I'm so glad that Nightdive Studios gotten the rights for Blood, and remastering it for modern OSs, and making it a fresh supply, to offer as much more of a bloodier version of Blood. And hopefully this game will bring new generation of gamers in, as well as bloodthirsty gorehound gamers such as myself that can't get enough of the action. Hopefully other old school gamers that haven't really heard of this game or played the game, I definitely recommend you to get into it, because we need more bloody hands. Now it's finally time to get into the gameplay and pros and cons while playing Blood. And I'm totally going fresh supply from here on, because I've been bloody dying to do a review on Blood for a bloody long time. So since this remastered version is finally out, now I finally got a bloody better chance to get a bloody review on Blood done. So, let's bloody fucking do it. Yeah, let's get a bloody fucking move on, shall we? Yeah! Just to get back on track, I already mentioned that the main protagonist goes by the name of Caleb, a gunslinger and a cult leader of a cabal, until Caleb was betrayed when him and his family got murdered. Then 7 years later, Caleb gets resurrected to seek answers and revenge. According to the timeline settings, Blood was supposed to be set in the late 1800s, but it doesn't seem like Blood has a proper timeline setting. And besides, a lot of 20th century things have been added into the game, like many horror and slasher film references. The more you play Blood, the more you'll come across those references quite a bit. Of course, it's not supposed to make much sense anyway, because Blood is not just a bloody horror game, it's a bloody parody. And like Duke Nukem and Lil Wayne, Caleb has his own humor.
I hate mimes. You're going to need a bigger boat.
Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior, and Blood are games that are set in a proper timeline setting of their own, where barely nothing makes sense. And that's the beauty point. That's how it usually is. And that's what makes these games bloody gold. A world of gaming cup made out of pure gold, and full of blood inside that gold cup, that at times gets me thirsty for some more. The timeline setting for Blood with its 1800s look looks bloody amazing. The protagonist of a gunslinger, ex-cult member, and an anti-hero with his sense of humor and with revenge on his mind is as much of a badass like Duke Nukem and Lil Wayne. Just like those two, Caleb indeed does have character all around. Just like Duke Nukem 3D and Shadow Warrior using the same game engine, the level design and atmosphere with a bloody awesome soundtrack for each level is bloody amazing. You'll always be seeing corpses laying around almost everywhere in the entire game. And like I said before, the game Blood is well worthy of that title. The soundtrack for Blood is a masterpiece, and it fits in with the entire game completely, with the options of having CD quality or MIDI quality. Either choice suits me just bloody dandy. I love the selection of weapons in Blood, from melee, firearms, explosive, magical weapons, or miscellaneous weapons. All weapons will do the bloody job if you use the right weapon against the right creature. Pitchfork, flare gun, sawed-off shotgun, Thompson machine gun, dynamite bundles, napalm launcher, Tesla cannon, aerosol can, voodoo doll, and life leech. Each weapon has its own use, and each of these weapons do have a second option, except for its default weapon, the pitchfork. And there's also this temporary dual weapon perk called Guns Akimbo that allows you to use dual firearms for a limited amount of time to increase more bloody action and bloody damage. So for a limited time, after picking up the Guns Akimbo, you have twice the bloody power. Now for item inventory, tools, and power-ups. Just like Duke Nukem 3D and Shadow Warrior, Blood has a great selection of useful tools and power-ups that will totally come in handy for your bloody adventure. Each level will have keys to unlock doors or other things like usual, but unlike Duke Nukem 3D that uses 3 different keys, Blood uses 6 different types of keys, and some levels uses all 6 keys. Increasing numbers of keys is definitely something new compared to Duke Nukem 3D and other first-person shooter games before that like Doom. Well, at least I bloody think so. Now the creatures in Blood are more than well done, and very well designed enough to give me bloody jump scares. Now, I would have to say, if I played Blood when it first came out during my teen days, I would have shit my pants, just like I did for Doom, Nightmare Creatures, Clock Tower, D, Silent Hill, Alone in the Dark, and Resident Evil. Well, I actually didn't shit my pants, I was only kidding about that part, but during my youth at the time, if I did play Blood, I would have been most likely bloody creeped out, and I would have fucking loved it. It's such a sad thing that I never witnessed Blood in my teen days, just like I did for Resident Evil on the PlayStation, because PC gaming for me was out of the question back then. And unlike Duke Nukem 3D, Doom, Wolfenstein 3D, Quake, or Hexed, there never was a console port of Blood. Or Shadow Warrior for that matter. But at least I finally got a chance to play Blood sooner or later, and I was very bloody happy to play Blood for the first time. But I'm now more than happy than ever that a remastered version came out. Playing retro first-person shooter games of almost any kind never gets old. Especially if I'm playing Blood. Like using a pitchfork against axe-wielding zombies, or sometimes decapitating their heads off, and kicking their fucking heads around like soccer balls. Or burning the cultists to bloody flaming crisp with a flare gun. Or splattering blood of any hostile creatures across the area with a sawed-off shotgun or a Thompson gun or a napalm launcher. Or burning these nuisance creatures like these fucking rats and spiders and these annoying bloody fucking hands from hell with an aerosol can. Or spreading blood underwater against these bone eels or gill beasts. Or using voodoo dolls on zombies or bloated creatures or cultists. And throwing bundles of dynamites against cultists, hellhounds, or gargoyles and more groups of hostiles. None of that never gets old, and there are plenty of creative ways to splatter blood across the entire fucking game. And that's practically all there is to say about Blood. Now, what are things that I dislike about Blood? Well, I can't say there's anything to dislike about Blood. Not as far as I can tell. Well, except when playing the digital one whole unit pack through a DOSBox emulator on modern OSs, and I had to tamper with the settings to get it right. But that's only a minor issue, and most DOSBox games are like that anyway. Other than that, I still enjoy the bloody hell out of Blood. But since the recent release of the remastered version of Blood, the only real way of playing the one whole unit pack of Blood is with physical copies on the original hardware. And if you're going to play Blood on modern operating systems from here on, then the fresh supply of Blood is a true way to go. You will get more bloody bang for your bloody buck. And for $9.99 on Steam or Good Old Games is bloody recommended. And blow those motherfuckers' heads. Dumbass. Well, there you have it. I bloody hope you all enjoyed the retrospective. Please do like, leave a comment below, subscribe to my Ultimate Game Realms YouTube channel. Until bloody next time, this is your bloody host and creator, Dixon, logging off. Hey.